What's up? Welcome in, Hoge and Jahns. Back with you going into preseason game number 2. Preseason game number 1 for the Buffalo Bills. The quarterback matchups are actually going to be somewhat interesting here, Johnsy.
Josh Allen versus Caleb Williams. I feel like there's some surprise that the Bears are playing Caleb Williams. No one believed that they were going to do it.
What about Mitch Trubisky versus Tyson Bagent?
Oh,
yeah.
sidebar.
See, we get this in the second quarter too. At least, in terms of storylines, it's interesting. Yeah, we're gonna talk.
Mitch had his revenge game 3 years ago.
I don't know.
He came in the Soldier Field, diced up Matt Nagy. He had an awesome game for the Bills. I think.
Was that in the preseason?
It was a preseason game.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see him again on Saturday. Welcome into the show. You can follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns, our show account at Hoge and Jahns, and you can find all of our merch at hogeandjahns.com. I got some new items up there as well. And you should be checking all that out, courtesy of Obvious Shirts. Our guy Joe hooking everybody up with some great designs. And of course, we got the polos,
long sleeve shirts.
Yeah. It's the first time I've seen one of those. Yeah.
Yes. I'm looking forward to wearing that as fall takes over Chicago.
Yeah, those quarter zip. We're going back into quarter zip season. So check all those out. And make sure you hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're listening the old-fashioned way to the podcast, which is now going into season number 10, which is crazy to think about. Hoge and Jahns here with you.
Time flies when you're having fun, brother.
Yeah. Please rate and review the podcast. Well, we have a game to cover and watch on Saturday. And I don't think either of us are going to be there.
Kevin Fishbane is going for the Athletic. I handled the Hall of Fame game, so he gets Caleb Williams' debut.
Yeah.
Preseason debut in Buffalo.
And I'm actually going to a family wedding on Saturday, so I am not even going to be watching this game. I will, however, catch up on all the tape. We're going to come, by the way, we will have you all covered with this. I think we're going with a Sunday evening post-game edition of Hoge and Jahns. We're going to have Kevin on, and by then we'll have digested everything in the game as well. So you're still going to get your fix, a slightly delayed as we deal with some family things.
I don't believe you. I believe you're going to watch the game on your phone. I've seen enough wedding videos of dudes sitting in church, have you, watching games during weddings. Usually it's college football season because that's that time of year, but I don't believe you. You're going to find a way to watch that game some way, somehow. At least maybe the first quarter.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least the first quarter. It is a noon game. The ceremony's at 1. So, yeah.
You're fine.
We should be able to get the first quarter in, the part that really matters. I've told this story before, and my sister's probably tired of me telling it, but she got married in Wisconsin the day Wisconsin played LSU at Lambeau Field, and married somebody from Wisconsin, my brother-in-law, which of course we've talked a lot about this year, but you had about 90% of the people at this wedding, truth serum. How badly did they want to be actually at Lambeau in that moment? You know what I mean? Myself included. This has been a running family joke for years now. And it got to the point where the game was so close in the fourth quarter. I think we actually delayed the start of the reception because everybody was just sitting there on their phones watching.
Distracted.
Yeah, it was a good game, and Wisconsin ended up winning. So then they ended up playing jump around to kind of kick off everything, and everybody got their fix, and everything was fine.
Now that's a good DJ. Hoge and Jahns Wedding Adventures. It was my brother-in-law's wedding. I was standing up in it. I was an usher, so that kind of counts. And I was holding the door to the church in Lincoln Park as the Khalil Mack news is coming through. And I'm literally texting Bears contacts, confirming contract details, passing out the flyer, not the flyers, the pamphlets, detailing explaining the details of the readings, all that stuff for the wedding.
Yeah, that was a Saturday morning that broke, wasn't that? Yeah. Okay. The moral of this whole story is don't get married in football season.
Yes.
Just stop,
No
please.
children, no pregnancies,
Yeah.
no weddings.
There's plenty of months to handle this other stuff, right? You got at least half of February, March, April, May, June, and July. And then that's it. And of course, I have family members listening to this right now. They're probably laughing as we go into the wedding this weekend. I will definitely hear about that conversation. All right. Let's jump into what you guys care about the most, which is Caleb Williams will play in this game. Whether I watch it on my phone or not, the starters are a go, according to Matt Eberflus, announcing this at Hallis Hall today, Jahns. And I'm not surprised by it at all. I mean, technically, this offensive line, there's a decent chance that this offensive line looks like what it looks like in week 1 at this point.
Yes, good point. So this offensive line from left to right, Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Coleman Shelton, Ryan Bates, Darnell Wright. So he returned to practice today after leaving with, I don't know, something with his right leg. Didn't look good, looked uncomfortable, but he came back, which is a good sign. So in terms of the starters who are available, to use Matt Eberflus's phrasing, that's not a bad offensive line to go into, because that would be my number one concern. I'm sure it's the Bears, is who's protecting Caleb Williams, who's in front of him. And I would take that right now. Obviously, the big news, Nate Davis, week to week.
Yeah.
Some soft tissue injuries.
I think it's a groin. He came back, and Matt Eberflus acknowledged there was a setback this week, but it was day to day. Now it's week to week. So this is we're at the point where it's August 8th. The opener's on September 8th, and you got to figure out the center thing sooner rather than later. And the last thing I would want to see is because we've seen the Bears do this before, is Coleman Shelton sort of having to be the center all preseason now because Nate Davis can't play. And then they get to week 1 and they're like, actually, we're going to have Ryan Bates play center. Nate Davis is back in at right guard. Like, that doesn't seem smart to me. And even on a very technical, I was talking to Kerry Joseph about this yesterday. The snap thing matters. They snap differently. There are 2 different types of snaps, and they come back at a different pace, which affects your timing as a quarterback.
The timing of the whole play.
Yeah, I wonder, Jahns, if we're just getting to the point where contract money won't matter. And the head coach said the other day, flat out, you can lose your job because of injury.
And he's been consistent with that, especially when Nate Davis's name is used in said questions. And Chris Morgan, the offensive line coach, kind of doubled down on what Matt Eberflus was saying. Today was Thursday. This was Wednesday at Hallis Hall in the Midway, where he basically said, yes, it's an open competition. And we like Ryan Bates at guard. Said both those things. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's what he said. Open competition on right guard. And we like Ryan Bates because of his strength and experience. And obviously they've been high on him for a couple of years. Running joke, but finally on the roster.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about some of these other guys in this game. I know you have 3 players you want to watch. I have 3 players I want to watch. But before we get to that, I mean, what do you want to see from Caleb Williams in what sounds like will be about a quarter, depending on how it's going to be a certain amount of plays, depending on how it goes. If they go 3 and out in the first drive, I think you'll see him for a second drive. If they end up getting through, 10 to 15 plays, that'll probably be it. But what do you want to see?
I would give him the whole first quarter, whether that's 20 snaps, 10 snaps. Maybe there's a set snap count they want to hit. Maybe that leads into the second quarter, but I'm thinking 20 in my mind, right? That sounds like a good, safe number. And I want to see him stack completions. I think they'll run the ball a lot, and they'll talk about the process, in and out of the huddle, cadence, all those things. But just watching Brett Rippon play the other night, even like Austin Reed, Tyson Bagent for a little bit, just stack completions, get the ball quickly. The defense is going to be vanilla. You've been tested a lot by the Bears defense. They've blitzed you a lot throughout camp. I don't think they're going to get that from the Bills, at least not every single down like we've seen at Hallis Hall. So stack completions, feel good about yourself leaving Buffalo.
Yeah, I imagine that they're going to you go into every game with your first 15 plays, ready to go, sort of your initial game plan. I'm guessing that's kind of what they'll do in this game with Caleb, is just say, here's our first 15, and however they get through it, whether it's one series or two series or whatever. I think that's probably just kind of game planning. You don't really game plan in the preseason, but game planning in that sense of, hey, this is what we like for this game. This is what we want to accomplish. And they'll start with that and go from there. I think that's probably what we'll see with Caleb. And you just hinted on it there, Jahns. Like, the Bears have been showing him a lot in practice. I think what they've been showing him in practice is way more complex than what the Bills are going to show on Saturday. So quite frankly, like, I think the results should probably be pretty good Saturday. And also, don't go crazy if they are, right? Like, just keep that in mind. But I'd be way more worried if it's a disaster than completely, enamored by the whole thing if it's a success, if that makes sense.
The more I've been thinking about it, and this goes back to what Caleb said about trying to ID blitzes, like being the most difficult thing, something he really wants to get good at. The Bears have been purposely throwing so much at him. The defense I'm talking about, like purposely attacking him in different ways because he's a rookie quarterback. Defensive coordinators are going to try to attack him with different blitzes, disguises, things to throw him off his rhythm. So I like the Bears' approach in training camp. And you've had obviously some uneven results for Caleb Williams because of that. But yeah, I think you're going to get a couple things where just thinking of the Brett Rippon game where he had a couple scrambles. He had a couple opportunities to buy himself some time, throw some balls down the field just in terms of like off schedule plays. Like, I want to see some of that. I wonder if we get one of those scramble to the left jump passes that we see on our shirts from Obvious Shirts, where he's making an acrobatic throw down the field. We've seen tons of those in camp. He's so good at that. So there'll be a couple of opportunities where the protection breaks down. We saw it against the Texans for the other quarterbacks, and we'll see what he can do off schedule. But just in general, keep it safe, stack completions, feel good leaving this game. Be healthy.
I'm glad he's playing. They got to start to work on these reps. I don't know if you've noticed, Jahns, but if you think about it this way, the last preseason game is 2 weeks from today. So you really you have less than a 2-week window here where you're going to have 3 games. That's when you got to get all your reps in. It's going to go fast. I mean, they're going to have this game, and then they're going to get into this joint practice next week with the Bengals. They're going to play the Bengals. They got a quick turnaround the Chiefs, and that's it. Then the preseason's over. There's more time between the Chiefs game and the Titans game than there is between today and the Chiefs game, if that makes sense. So take advantage of this, because I also think I've said this before, but to me, the biggest downside of not having that 4th preseason game anymore is the time between your last preseason game and the opener. And that sort of that delay where you're not only you're not playing football, but the practices are getting way easier. You're not in pads every day, calcing.
You're not preparing for contact.
Right. So you got it. That's literally the next 13 days.
Callus has become like the coach buzzword. Started a few years ago. Now it's used by every coach across the league. Callus your players for contact. What I would do at Caleb Williams, again, 20 snaps on this one. I like that I'm not even counting Nate Davis as a starter right now because he doesn't practice. Doesn't practice enough for me. So you have your starting offensive line. You got all your tight ends. You got all your backs. You got all your receivers. 20 snaps into the second quarter. Leave feeling good about yourself. Cincinnati gets a bit tricky because you have the joint practice. You get a lot of reps in that game, but give them a series against Cincinnati. And then give them another quarter against the Chiefs to round out the preseason. To your point, now you have a gap after that. That would be my plan for Caleb Williams going forward.
Yeah, I'd play him in all 3 because of that gap. And because let's not forget, that's kind of how it used to be, because you had that, if you didn't play your starters in the 4th preseason game, which is how it used to be, you would still have that gap between playing time. However, that 3rd preseason game was usually on a Saturday, where the last one's always on a Thursday. So you the gap wasn't as long as it is now. So I know people don't really care about that too much, but it is a thing to me. So play him. a little bit in each game. I'd rather see that than what we saw last year when Justin didn't play against the Colts, and then he basically had 13 reps over the course of a month in an actual game. That didn't help him.
We've gone old school too. We've come a long way since
Yeah.
agreeing with Matt Nagy's kind of a bold idea to not play starters at all, any starters at all in the preseason.
Yeah, well, we're old football men now
Yeah,
because
now we are.
this,
Yes,
this podcast is at 10 seasons.
we got gray hairs on the side of our heads.
Mine are
Some
way
of us
grayer than yours.
on top. Not me. Here.
No.
Here. There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Gotta
Yeah,
get
it's
the finger pointing correctly on camera here.
yeah, it's my wife likes it, so it's fine. Let's alternate here on players that we want to see in this football game. You can go first.
Gervon Dexter. I just want to know if it's real. We've seen flashes. We've seen impressive flashes sometimes where he's getting a good feel for the cadence and he's using his length and his speed to really get in the backfield. Now, some of those have come against some backups because there's been some rotating on the right side of the offensive line. I just want to know if it's real. I think the Bears want to know if it's for real. There won't be Montez Sweat. I don't expect him to play. Maybe Andrew Billings doesn't play. I think on defense, that's where you see most of the starters held out. So it's an opportunity for Gervon Dexter to really make a name for himself, at least in the preseason, and really show all of us that he can handle this 3 technique.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that too. Dexter had a great day today. He was in the backfield a lot. And I think he's been I think he's taken the steps here because we talked a lot of him the first week, but they didn't have pads on. So it's like, all right, well, what does it look like when the pads go on? Well, it's looked to me like pretty much the same, encouraging. And now you'll get to see him in a game, against a starting offensive line for the Bills, and hopefully it still looks good. It'd be nice to see him make a splash play in this game just to kind of keep it continuing on the trend that it is. So I will go opposite of pretty much where Gervon Dexter lines up, and this is kind of a 2-for-1 here. But that combination of Coleman Shelton and Ryan Bates working at center and right guard, 2 new players to the roster. We have not seen them play in a game, and we're at this point where I think we all expected this, and I think Ryan Poles included, expected this to be Ryan Bates at center, Nate Davis at right guard. Then it kind of evolved into a competition at center, and now it's out of necessity. It might end up being this combination center and guard, and I want to see what it looks like in a game. I want to see how that plays out. Now, my one thing I'm slightly concerned with, Jahns, is Bates did not actually finish practice today. It was hard to tell if that was by design or not, but he ended up towards the end of practice doing some work on the side, but he was like pulling some weights that they strap around your waist, and you're pulling it on the ground. So it didn't look like he was dealing with anything serious. Maybe it was just, his rep count for the day was over and he went over and got some side work done. It wasn't enough to make me think he's not going to play Saturday, but I think you want to see what this combination looks like in the first quarter.
I think the Bears are actually okay with this combination. I feel like they've prepared themselves for this combination. Let's go back to, where was it? The NFL owners meetings. Let's not forget what Ryan Poles said there, that the depth in the middle, specifically in the middle of his offensive line, would keep him up at night. Like the former offensive lineman didn't like his depth in the middle of his offensive line. He feels a lot better about Ryan Bates, a lot better about Coleman Shelton. This is different than when Nate Davis, the signing's not coming to fruition the way he wanted it to be. No. But he prepared, the Bears have prepared themselves for this scenario. Now, maybe it's a scenario they wanted to get to later, but still, they like this depth. Let's see how this depth plays starting this week.
All right, well, let's stay on the offensive line because I think your next player is the guy that's going to be playing next to Ryan Bates.
Yeah, darn all right. We mentioned him leaving practice early on Wednesday, returned on Thursday. I don't think he's had a good camp. I don't. I know he's a young player. I know he's going up against Montez Sweat, but this was a top 10 draft pick. He's supposed to be a stalwart on your offensive line. a star on your offensive line. So, like, the expectations, like, this isn't fifth round pick Braxton Jones. This is top 10 pick Darnell Wright we're talking about. I thought he had a good rookie year. He's a monster in the run game. I think the Bears can run the ball. I really do. I think they can run the ball with Coleman Shelton, Ryan Bates, and Darnell Wright on that side. I really do. But it's the pass protection. Like, is it just Montez Sweat dominating him? Can he handle other pass rushers? Or is Darnell Wright really having a bad training camp?
So my level of concern wasn't high when Montez Sweat was out there because Montez Sweat was having the type of training camp from a pass rusher that the only thing I could compare it to would be Khalil Mack in the years that we've been watching this team in training camp. Like, he really looked that good, and it was very encouraging. And so it's like you're going to give a little bit of leeway to Darnell Wright, who's a second-year player, a little bit of benefit of the doubt in that matchup. But yesterday when we were at practice and he gets beat, and I ask you, who got him there? Because I didn't catch the number. And you said Dominique Robinson. You should be stopping Dominique Robinson as a top 10 pick, even in year 2. And then we were watching him very,
100% yes.
Yeah. I mean, come on. And we're watching him very closely, and he doesn't look right. And then he sort of gets rolled up on. So I don't know if he's dealing with something. I tend to agree with you that at the very least, this hasn't been a great camp for Darnell, right? Not the type of camp you're hoping to see from a top 10 pick going into year 2. So yeah, let's see what this looks like against an opposing team. Now, again, things are going to be vanilla. I don't know how many blitzes you're going to see and things like that. So it's probably going to be a lot of one-on-one matchups or whatever, but
which is fine. Give me a third on set.
But win them.
Yeah. 1-on-1. Yes,
win them. 100%. I'm with you. My next guy is also a top 10 pick, but this year's number 9 overall pick, and that is Rome Odunze. Because let's not forget, he is getting out there. I always kind of laugh at this, Jahns. In any other market this year, their first round draft pick is what they're talking about to lead this podcast. But because the Bears drafted Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, it's like we forget this guy's number 9 overall. I mean, he would be getting all the scrutiny, all the focus in any other market. That's probably a good thing for him here in Chicago. I will say, I like pretty much everything I've seen from him. I thought the first week of camp, I thought it was a little bit slow. He missed a day. Remember, he had to leave for a family thing, and then he kind of ramped up a little bit. So the first week was like whatever. But especially since they've been in pads, Rome looks good. Rome looked really good yesterday in practice. So I want to see what this looks like, especially because, you know, if you listen to Flus's words carefully today, he didn't necessarily say all starters that aren't injured. He said all starters who are available. Keenan Allen hasn't played a preseason game in 4 years, is my understanding. I'm not sure Keenan Allen's playing Saturday. He might. I have no idea. But I'm just saying, based on his history and his age being a 13-year pro, I mean, are you putting pads on Mercedes Lewis? I mean, there's going to be guys. Yeah, there's going to be guys here that aren't playing. That opens the door to Rome Odunze. We did see DJ Moore play last year with Justin, so maybe he'll still be out there. We'll see. Regardless, Rome's playing. I want to see what it looks like with Caleb. That's got to be at the top of the list.
We're not too far removed from, 4 or 5 days ago over the weekend where he had the touchdown pass through defenders in the corner of the end zone. Then he had the leaping 2-point conversion, also in the corner of the end zone from Caleb Williams. The highlights are there. Yes, you have DJ Moore getting his contract. Keenan Allen, I think his route running is now finally being discussed like almost every single day, depending on who's talking to the media. It's come up a lot over the past week. But then there's Rome Odunze, who's like, I remember a few years ago, this is where it's different, like going in depth on like Anthony Miller's route running, some of the defensive backs. Let me tell you right now, Rome Odunze's route running is significantly better than Anthony Miller's route running year 2, year 3, however long he was here. Like year 1 might have been Anthony Miller's best year, but just in terms of the caliber of receiver, Rome Odunze is on another level.
Yeah. It's should be very encouraged by what we've seen so far, but want to see it in the game. Here you go. Opportunity against the Bills. And to the point I was just making, it just popped in my head now. I believe Keon Coleman was the Bills' first pick. He's certainly been the one they've been talking about the most up there in Buffalo, second rounder. And because he's the first pick, this is what they're talking about on the Bills podcast right now going into this game. And so it's a big deal. And honestly, that'll be fun to see Keon Coleman on that side go up against, I don't know, Jalen Johnson play. I'm not sure, but
I'm not sure you're going to see Jalen Johnson. I'm not sure if you're going to see Roma Dunze like on special teams, if that's part of the question too.
Well, that's interesting too, because there have been moments in practice where he looks like the number one punt returner right now. And Flus seemed open to it when he was asked the question today, and apparently went on the Kay Adams show and raved about him as a punt returner. I didn't hear it, but people were, texting it to me. So if you're going to try it, I would think you try it now. Maybe let him get one opportunity. A lot of fans don't like it though, and I guess I don't necessarily blame them. I think that there is a time to do it though. This might be the time, because you can't test a punt returner without it being live bullets. You just can't. They got to know they might get hit.
And plans change too. I mean, he could be an option come the regular season. I have no problem with that. He is your second or third receiver, any way you want to look at it. I know he wants to be a one, but the Bears have arguably 3 number 1 wide receivers. And how I've never said anything like that before in my life.
No, closest we were was Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. Like, it got to the point where it's like, oh, it's 1A and 1B, but not 3 number 1s.
Yeah, you got 3 1As right now. Oh, maybe we'll go 2 1As, 1B. We'll make room.
I would say 2 1As and a 1C.
1C.
But still a 1.
Okay. Still darn good.
Yeah.
My third and final player, speaking of wanting to see if this is for real, or starting to see if it's for real and seeing if he could continue the momentum he seemingly has, it's rookie defensive end Austin Booker. I feel like I'm taking more note of him at practice. On Wednesday, 3rd and long, great rush that helped contain Caleb Williams in the pocket, eventually whistled as a sack, but didn't lose. Like, they obviously wanted to control the pocket, like maintain, keep him in the pocket where we don't have the second reaction plays where Caleb Williams is just so deadly. So I like the rookie. I think the Bears really like the rookie. He looks productive on a lot of reps. You can't finish these reps because you can't hit the quarterbacks, but I think there's something here in Austin Booker. I don't want to get too carried away. He's a rookie, but he's coming in with the ones on 3rd down situations, and you see flashes of what he can provide this defense as a pass rusher.
Yeah, I like it. If I had to predict Austin Booker's rookie season right now, based on what we've seen, I think he's going to have some flashes and some impact plays and get people pretty excited. And then because I do think he needs to put on weight and get a little bit bigger at the position, because he has the frame, right? I just wonder if opposing offenses are going to be able to sort of figure him out and kind of figure out that we could stop what he has right now as a rookie, and then it'll be up to Austin to really, like, in the offseason, develop a couple more pass rush moves and get a little bit bigger. But I do like the early trajectory he's on. I could see that all playing out this year.
It's a positive that I think that we're noticing him this early. And it'll be even more positive if we take note of him a lot early against the Bills, especially if he happens to take the field against Josh Allen.
Yeah, when I play my first impressions game, if we're doing that with Austin Booker, the first impressions are good.
Mm-hmm.
The first impressions with Roman Dunze are very good. And then my last guy, also a rookie, the first impressions are also very good. Torrey Taylor. Come on, we want to see Torrey Taylor punt the ball.
I was waiting for this.
Come on, you want to see it too. Admit it.
That means the offense isn't working.
Well, it could be after Caleb is done.
Okay,
then they can finally punt the ball. Is that fair?
That's fair. Okay.
Come on, you want to see it?
I think you're gonna get one Tory Taylor bomb where things don't go right for the offense, whether it's the starters or the backups, and Tory Taylor standing on his own 7 or 8 yard line and just boom, like full power.
The thing that impresses me most about Tory Taylor in practice is if you could picture, and this has been my comp from day one, Scotty Scheffler, right? If you're just picturing Scotty Scheffler like on the range, and he's just got his pitching wedge out there, and just it's like he's throwing darts on the green, right? Just darts on the green. When Tory Taylor, let's say he's at the minus 45 or somewhere around the 50, and he's just trying to kick it directionally, like into the corner, like inside the 5 yard line, coffin corner area. He just does it like he just effortlessly. It's in that corner every single time. It's like a professional golfer just hitting the green over and over again in a practice round.
The amount of English he gets on his punts. So English, if you're not familiar with the pool term, I guess the
language.
Yeah,
that's what we're speaking.
The language. What did I say? The English. Oh, shut up. The spin of the ball. It's just remarkable how consistent it bounces backwards or sideways.
Yeah,
and not a word of the English language. I don't think.
Oh, we're not. So now we're not speaking English.
We're not. But the English that he has on his punts, it's like too consistent. Like it's impressive. It's just so consistent. I haven't seen anything like it. And just in terms of the punters that we've covered draft picks, Pat O'Donnell and Trenton Gill. Tory Taylor's kicking different punts.
Yeah, no, it's with a lot of punters. I think even at the NFL level, when they put the nose of the ball down to try to get one that has backspin to pin him inside the 10, I still feel like it's a 50-50 proposition on which way the ball is going to actually go, because it is a football and it is shaped weird and you don't necessarily get the right bounce. And for whatever reason, the percentage of his that bounce the way you want it to away from the end zone, whether that's backwards or sidewards.
Good word. New word.
Yeah, I like it. He seems to do it like 8 out of 10 instead of
in the 5 yard line. Here it is hitting on the 4 and sidewards. there it goes. Out of bounds.
Yeah. He also gets the ball really, really high, so you can get your gunners down there, and they've been catching some of them on the fly.
Yeah.
Too, which is great. So anyway, I got to throw him in there on the list of things I want to see in a preseason game. He's on there.
It wouldn't be a Hoge and Jahns podcast if you didn't do that.
Nope. Now, I could have said the backup long snapper who might be playing because Patrick Scales has a back injury, but I didn't do that. So I at least saved you from that. Cameron Lyons might be the long snapper on
There you go. At least put his name out there for everybody.
Yeah. He's a rookie from Charlotte. And he wears number 43. Now I sound like Joe Buck in the middle of the Hall of Fame game. I mean, you could tell he's like, man,
reading from his card.
The only information I have on this guy. All right. Well, it's a fun preseason game, I think. Got a decent team in the Bills. Josh Allen's going to be out there. Caleb Williams. Then the backups come in. It should still be interesting with a Mitch game and Tyson Bagent. And then we'll see if Brett Ripping can continue his momentum from that strong Hall of Fame game.
Keep ripping it.
Do the Bears have depth at quarterback? They might. We'll see. All right. Any other final thoughts?
No. We'll watch the game. Here it is, everybody. Caleb Williams is playing. I don't know why there was some doubt that he would ever not play.
Yeah, I think it was just the concern about the offensive line. But I think it's going to end up being, like I said earlier, this might be your starting line week 1. You need to learn how to play football when you can get hit behind whoever's playing the offensive line. So I like it. We'll see how it plays out on Saturday. Again, our post-game episode will be coming your way probably Sunday evening. And we'll get Kevin when he gets back from Buffalo. We'll get him involved in it and break it all down, whatever happens in this game. And of course, if you need something sooner, you can always check out CHGO because we will have, even though I'm not on them this week, we will have a pre and post game show on Saturday that you can go check out. 11 a.m. pregame, post game as soon as the game's over. So you can check out that there. And of course, Johnsy, Fishbane, the whole crew in The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hoge and Jahns is where you go to subscribe for all their awesome written work. And
Hoge we got a 53-man roster coming out tomorrow.
We do? Wait, what? Oh, you do. You have a projected 53-man
Projected 53-man roster. Kevin Fishbane and I. Taking note of key injuries and taking note of who is playing where in special teams.
Ooh, that's always good. That's always good. So check that out. The Athletic, theathletic.com again /Hoge and Jahns. You go to hogeandjahns.com for all the merch. And also at Hoge and Jahns on Twitter to follow our show account. Keep helping us grow that as well. All right. We will talk to you on Sunday evening. Enjoy the game.
See ya.